Hey, what's up, YouTube? Thanks for watching the Commander's Brew. If you guys are liking these episodes and you're liking these decks, go down and hit subscribe. If you're loving it, go check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/commandersbrew. We've got a big change. We're switching over to monthly donations from our episode-based ones now. So go make sure you hit that up before April 4th, because April 4th is what, Sean?
The premiere of Battle of the Brews.
That's right, the premiere of Battle of the Brews.
Join us here on YouTube, April 4th, Eastern Standard Time, 2019, in case you're listening to this in another year.
Yeah, exactly. We're dropping that new show. We had ran the big Kickstarter, and now it's finally happening, so make sure you're here to check it out. Yeah, without further ado, let's check out this week's deck tech.
Oh man, this deck is Izzet Superfriends. I've always felt a little sad that Atraxa is the big Super Friends deck that exists, and it does not include red. There's a lot of interesting red Planeswalkers, but the red Planeswalkers kind of get the short end of the stick in Commander anyway, but I'm here to prove you wrong. I've got a nice collection of Izzet Planeswalkers. We've got a Thopter theme going with Saheeli the Gifted, and we've got an X-Spell theme going as well, and I find a lot of these Planeswalkers really do help with casting those X spells.
Yeah, they do. There's a lot of good synergy here, and I didn't really expect to see that. So let's get right into it. Do we talk about Saheeli?
Not yet, Saheeli. So this is the one that we're allowed from the Commander deck. That's the only illegal Saheeli for our Commander. So she makes Thopters and makes spells 1 cheaper per artifact for her pluses. That can be very big. That's often a -10, -15. Casting an X spell with a 15 discount is very good.
Very strong.
Her ultimate sometimes wins games too, being able to double all of our artifacts. A lot of times that's a lot of extra ramp, which sometimes that's the better choice to ramp out a bigger X spell. Let's just do the math on that one. But sometimes it's just like, oh, I've got enough ground artifact creatures. Oh, sure, I'll just double them and attack for 1 million.
Yeah, so, knowing that that's what we're kind of basing everything around, let's talk about these neat moves.
Working on a neat move.
Okay, let's talk about that first neat move. We're dealing with Thopters. You gotta include the Thopter Spy Network. It's the one that, when your Thopters hit, you get to draw an extra card. But Sean pointed out a very interesting rules interaction to me, and that's that if you hit more than one player, you'll actually draw for each player you hit as well. So, if you swung your Thopters at two people and you hit with both, that's drawing 2 cards. That never occurred to me, but that's how that one works. Sharding Sphinx is a similar card, but that will actually just let you get an extra Thopter for each artifact creature that hits. So your Thopters kind of just turn into more Thopters that way if they can get through. And he shards them out onto the battlefield. and Sai the Master Thopterist, of course, whenever you're casting artifact spells, you're making more Thopters, and it's a little bit of a draw engine too. You gotta include Sai for talking Thopters.
Yeah, great Thopter team. And so I also want to highlight Retrofitter Foundry. This is a card that came with Saheeli's precon that I was quick to dismiss. If you do the math, it costs 10 to get your first servo from your hand, or just 9 on the ground. But we are Saheeli's generating servos, probably. We're generating Thopters all over the place. This is very often just, I'll chump. You're attacking my Planeswalker with your non-trampling flyer. Cool. I'll chump with a Thopter, turn it into a 4/4 before damage. Great. Now I'm up here. I'm up on this board. And if you've got some mana during an end step of the last opponent, you can make a few 4/4s by untapping this and then tapping for free to upgrade a Thopter, as it were. You can attack in with some surprise 4/4s for some real damage. I do like that.
Yeah, changing those Saheeli servos into Thopters too, not a bad move.
That's good too, right? This card does a lot of work. I'm always happy to see it when I have it around. It's a great mana sink too. You can always be doing something with it.
Great.
And then I also want to mention Signal Pest is to help with all these Thopters, all these artifact creatures. It's a Signal Pest making everything attack with a +1 power. Signal Pest, you can probably find a board where Signal Pest will get through unharmed, and you'll just be able to keep attacking. Look, having a lot of Thopters is kind of scary. Having a lot of 2/1 Thopters is a little bit more scary.
Yeah, that's right. And there's actually, you can actually, this guy's great because he's also recurable, right? You want your anthems usually to stay out there on like enchantments or whatever, but in this deck, actually having it on a little artifact creature is quite the nice little upside.
Yeah.
Great. Thopter's great at protecting, but if we have a ton of them out there, we can also use them kind of offensively with Gear per Ether Grid, which we're using to tap our artifacts and dealing damage. We can get rid of like some good utility creatures. We can wipe the board of other tokens if we want, and also just deal a lot of direct damage. It's just a great way that, you know, you can keep your Thopters there to protect your Planeswalkers. You don't actually need to turn them sideways to attack once the attacking, you know, something you want to do.
Yeah. My favorite move with this is using treasures as damage, but not tapping them for mana. Just be like, yeah, I'll just set up my treasures. I'll just ping you for 4 every turn until I need to spend them.
Yeah, that's really good. It is target creature or player, so you're not hitting every opponent, but it's still very solid.
Yeah, I will eventually hit every opponent.
Let's talk about some of these Planeswalkers, though. This is an Izzet Super Friends deck. Let's get into it.
Yes, that's the point of it. The Izzet Super Friends, as I hinted, they synergize so well. Remember, Thopters and X spells. That's why Jaya Ballard is so good. Normally, we dismiss her, but two +1 abilities that help with what we're doing. The one that lets us discard 3 and draw that many, that's a better version of Duretti's, and this is sort of an artifact deck, so we're good. We're happy to put artifacts in our graveyard to pop out later on. And adding 3 mana for an X spell, boosting it another 3 is always good to do. And if we're not at the point of doing a big X spell, sure, I'll cast like a smaller spell, instant or sorcery, for basically nothing.
Great. And the other another red one we want to highlight here is Chandra the Firebrand. And she is not a great EDH Planeswalker with the +1 ability, just dealing with the 1 damage, but the ability to copy a spell, that's what we're looking for here. The fact that is like, you know, recurable, we can do that a couple of times, and that -6 isn't nothing. Dealing 6 damage to each of 6 targets is pretty sweet.
Yeah. The copy is the big deal.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Jace the Living Guildpack, notoriously bad Planeswalker, but in this deck, he's not the worst. So just looking at the top 2, 1 in your graveyard, one does not go in your hand, which is what we want to do. So if they leave Jace alone, you're going to accrue value by sculpting your game plan. Your game plan's going to arrive smoother than it was before. And Jace might have the biggest difference between his lame opening ability and his fantastic ultimate. Your opponents will have to deal with this eventually, because that ultimate of making everyone shuffle their hand in graveyard and you drawing 7, that's great. I want to be in that position. So I'll use this point to remind you, when we have a ton of Planeswalkers, yeah, they all got to be dealt with eventually, but it gets really hard. Like, which one is your opponent going to value? If they can't kill Jace all at once, is it even worth chipping in yet? Because, like, I don't care about that +1, but they should.
Yeah, and you know, all it takes sometimes is for just 1 or 2 of your opponents to not have a real dedicated attacking deck for your Planeswalkers to just sit there and, you know, tick up until it's ultimate time.
They protect each other.
Yeah, they do. They take and draw focus. Important, though, when you're having Duretti out there, because you want to hit this ultimate. Duretti Scrap Savant is in the deck as well. Obviously, we're dealing with artifacts. We're dealing with like a lot of looting type of abilities with a couple of these Planeswalkers. Sacrificing and stuff like that. So Duretti is obviously very good there. The ultimate is, we're not going to like crush it like we do in a dedicated Duretti deck, but this is actually just going to protect your artifacts and make it a nightmare for your opponents to deal with stuff. Really though, this is just a nice one, nice synergy with artifacts here.
Yeah, very nice synergy. This makes it good for throwing stuff in the graveyard. And as we said, this is also an X spell deck, right? That's half the theme of it. A lot of these. So let's talk about what we're going to do with all that mana. We're going to cast an Electro Dominance. We love this card. You should too. It's becoming a commander staple as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Being able to close, like, so if I've got enough mana up, granted Saheeli's +1 to give us cheaper spells has to be on our main step, but if we've chipped in with a ton of Thopters, it's very possible that it's like, okay, is it you're in an end step? Okay, before my turn begins, I'll Electro Dominance you, so you're out of the game, and I'll drop, let's say, another Planeswalker, and then I'll start my turn with 1 less opponent and 1 more major resource.
Yeah, very, very solid. I think we've included this in just about every red deck we've built since it's come out.
Maybe. It's so good.
Yeah. Another great X spell is Blue Sun Zenith. Obviously, being able to target that draw is essential, especially if you're doubling it up and making people draw like 40, 50 cards. That can just be an end to the game sometimes. Obviously, it's also strong for yourself. And also Mass Manipulation is a solid X spell that we're going to be able to play and steal a bunch of stuff.
And I didn't put this in the notes, but like obviously Comet Storm, you're able to just win the whole game that way very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty good. But we do have a surprising discovery I want to talk about. This is a card that I have overlooked a lot. It is undeniably powerful, but its cost has thrown me. It's Brass's Bounty. 7 mana is a lot for a sorcery that doesn't do a lot right now, but getting a ton of treasures is very good. Midway through the game, I can use Jaya Ballard to cast this. I can use one of Saheeli's pluses to make this way cheaper. I can often get all these treasures for very little mana. And I've got a gear per ether grid. I've got ways of tapping my artifacts for other things. Having all those, and plus we're talking X spells. Having a bunch of extra mana for a future X spell is very good.
Very, very good. Dropping this with an Electro Dominance must feel pretty good too.
It feels so nice.
Electro Dominance for 7, and then also Brass's Bounty. So now you get all the mana back, and you untap, and woo, nonsense. Very, very cool. But though that's the heart of the deck. But let's take a look at the old budget report here.
We're going to take a look at all the cards, find out which ones are criminally overrated because they're lame planeswalkers, but then see which ones belong anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's what this deck is all about. So like you said, just right there, a lot of like these kind of mid to low level planeswalkers that we're talking about here, but they can still cost a little bit. So we have a special kind of budget report this time, right?
Yes. So I'm going to talk about the 3 most expensive cards currently in the deck as is. Find the link to this deck in the description for our tapped out to find the deck list. But I will include some extra includes. So all the planeswalkers are under $10 right now. And the 3 most expensive currently are Koth of the Hammer, which is in here because both of his first abilities are better ramp to help us with X spells. And if we get a minus, our mountains becoming basically prodigal sorcerers, Tims, if you will, being able to do a damage anywhere is nothing to sneeze at. Koth is about $7 right now, but not amazing, right? So he might not get tons of attention. Ral Zarek, the original Ral, same deal. He untaps a permanent and taps another one, but he doesn't tap it for a turn, so that's kind of useless. So he's just a bit of ramp. He can do 3 damage, which we don't care about tons. But if they he's just helping us ramp and move our game along. And if they ignore him, we get to flip 5 coins and take 2.5 extra turns on average. Ral Zarek is $650. Tezzeret Artifice Master, currently from M19. Not technically is it mono blue, but he's $6 right now. He makes Thopters and he draws cards. His ultimate's nuts, but we're only going to be drawing cards, so our opponents will want to deal with him because we keep drawing 2 cards extra a turn, not because we're getting closer to our -9, which we can't really abuse anyway.
Yeah. The other 2 that we want to mention are just slightly more expensive, and planeswalkers tend to add up, so these decks can get really out of hand money-wise. But 2 of the best are Dak Faden, the greatest thief of the multiverse.
Yeah.
This guy gets played in Vintage for a reason. Being able to steal artifacts is really, really solid. The ultimate's not super far away, and we're not really built towards it, but it's still solid. 3 mana planeswalkers are good. And Tezzeret the Seeker. It's Tezzeret the Seeker I've seen be called the best planeswalker in Commander, just because of what it can grab and like the stuff it can enable, but in this deck, it's still just it's maybe not broken, busted, going to lead you to some combo to win the game, but it's definitely very strong. You're minusing things to you're minusing it to get your soul rings and your artifact ramp. That +1 is going to be very solid, and then the -5 is a win condition, straight up. It starts at 4 loyalty, and the ultimate's -5. That's very good.
Yeah. So I mean, if you can afford it, throw those in. They're obviously good. But just to sum up, all of the planeswalkers fuel our game plan. They either help us dig further to get our game plan going, maybe they make Thopters or other artifacts, or they just help contribute for more mana to either A, cast the spells to get us there, or finish off our gigantic X spells.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about our favorite cards in the deck.
Okay, what's yours?
Mine are two, I think, criminally underrated and underappreciated spells in Commander. They're Ether Spouts and Ether Eyes. They're kind of this very similar cards. Obviously here, Spouts being able to put stuff on your bottom or top of the library, depending on what's going on. Ether Eyes right to the hand. I love these cards in control decks. I love these cards in decks like this where you're looking to protect things. You're looking to protect Planeswalkers. Because yes, it is sort of this like one-time use, but at the same time, it's devastating. And if you straight up tell someone you have it, or sometimes threaten that you have it, or anything like that, it can really set behind that attacking deck that's going to deal you a lot of problems, right? And that's kind of that's the one you're worried about. Even sometimes if you're just bouncing or decking one or two big attackers, that's all you need before your Planeswalkers can ultimate or go off. Because a lot of times people like sit there, wait for the Planeswalker to get close, and then like put forth an attack just to set it back down a little bit, just to keep it under control. And these are two cards that can really help get around that.
Too late. My favorite is another X spell, Indomitable Creativity. It's the Mythic from Ether Revolt. It's only a couple gumballs right now, but it's amazing. We want to use it on ourselves, right? We will upgrade token Thopters and servos into great mana rocks or big giant attacky artifact creatures, or just stuff that serves our game plan. But we're allowed to throw anything we want. So if our opponent has like an Immortal Sun, of course we're going to nab that. If they've got a key artifact that's just enabling their whole game plan, of course we're going to enable that, hit that. If there's an Elish Norn, I'm going to take that too. Like I'm going to grab the stuff that's really a problem that are surely only going to be downgrades.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great just to hit yourself. Great to hit things that are bothering you. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, well, there you go. That's the deck. This is a fun one. A lot of different angles coming together, synergizing, but also like being able to attack on their own like kind of line like that. This is the type of deck I love.
Yeah, it looks real fun.
Izzet Superfriends. You saw it here. And guess what? You might see it in an actual game if you watch Battle of the Brews, which is dropping April 4th right here on the Commander's Brew YouTube channel. Come check that out. Hit subscribe so you'll make sure you know when it's happening. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Big thanks to all our patrons who make these episodes possible.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more comedy videos, check out our Brews News playlist.
Make sure you follow us on Twitch TV to see when we play live.
If you want to chat with us, head over to Twitter. We're at Commander's Brew.
And please hit subscribe to ding the bell and find out when we got new stuff coming out.
See you next time.
Bye.